Inquire carefully, inquiring what persons or time the Spirit of Christ, meaning the Holy Spirit, in them was indicating when he predicted the sufferings of Christ and the subsequent glories. What does all this mean? And so, how did we come to a place where we, even though we haven't seen him, we love him, even though we haven't seen him, our hearts are full of joy? We came to this, first of all, because of the prophets. Now, I have my Bible here. Do you realize that 25% of this book is words written by prophets? Now, this week, because of some courses I'm taking, I've actually been studying the Quran, which is the Islam or a Muslim holy book, and there is exactly 0 books of prophecy in the Quran. I'm familiar with Hindu writings. There are exactly 0 prophetic books in Hindu writings. I'm familiar with actually most cults, most different world religions. In fact, none of them have predictive prophecy in their writings. Why? Because it would never come true. And so 25% of our Bible is dedicated to predictive prophecy. And I don't have time to go through all this. I really wish I did. You're going to have to ask me to come back and do this some other time. But the prophets would sit down and they would write, especially Old Testament prophets, 1,200 to 800 years before the birth of Jesus, they told the story of Jesus. I'll just name a few just to think of. In Isaiah, 800 years before Jesus was born, the prophet said, "Behold, there would be a sign that there would be a child born in Bethlehem from a virgin. Here's your sign. A pregnant girl, a virgin girl will be pregnant." Not something that happens on every Tuesday, okay? This is very unique. This will be your sign. That a baby will be born in Bethlehem, and that baby will be born of a virgin mother. Another one, about 1,200 years before the birth of Jesus, says that the Messiah will come and he will stand and teach in the temple. I have a couple of friends who are Jewish, and we talk about prophecy often, and their hope is that one day their Messiah will come, and I try to show them that he has come, and that he loves them, and he's for them. And one of the greatest claims to the fact that Jesus is the Messiah is because the Old Testament prophets said that Jesus would stand at the temple and teach. But yet today there is no temple. There hasn't been a temple since 70 AD. It was destroyed by the Romans, and it's not, short of World War III, it is not going to be built again. And so here we have the Bible made up of 25% prophecy, pointing to, the prophets are saying, hey, there's one coming, you need to watch out for him. Here are the things they're going to show that he is coming. 1,200 years before Jesus came, the Old Testament prophets told us that he would suffer and that he would be pierced in his hands and his feet. This was hundreds of years before crucifixion was even invented. Around the world, crucifixion still happens to this day in some remote, cruel parts of the world. But here we see predictive prophecy is showing us that one day Jesus would come, the Messiah would come, and he'd be pierced in his hands and his feet. We also know that Jesus, or the Messiah, was going to be betrayed by 30 pieces of silver. And that silver would be given away and then brought back into the temple. Again, there's no temple today. And it was exactly 30 pieces of silver that Judas betrayed Jesus and then threw it back into the temple. These are just 6 things. 6 things that I wish we really had the time to dive into. And I can show you verse by verse. These are just 6 of the countless times. There are over 300 prophecies in the Old Testament alone about Jesus. It would take one person, according to Josh McDowell, it would take one person fulfilling just 8 of these prophecies. It would be 1 in 100 quintillion chances for that to happen. I think you have better odds of winning the lottery than you would for being the Messiah, okay? And that's just 1 of 8. But there are 300 different prophecies that Jesus has fulfilled. And so what Peter is saying is, we haven't seen him with our eyes, but we've heard the story. We've seen how the prophets have pointed out that this is in fact the one that we've been looking for. And it would take 1 in 100 quintillion. I don't even know how much that is. But let's take up an offering. Just 1 in 100 quintillion people, just give $1. Come on, do your part. It would be great. 1 in 100 quintillion. Here, Peter is showing us the prophets. They didn't know what was going on, but by the power of the Holy Spirit, they used their skills, they used their giftings, they used their ability to point us to something. They didn't see it with their eyes just like we don't see it with our eyes. But they knew that it was coming down the road, and so they wrote these things down. They wrote about the prophecies by the power of the Holy Spirit, using their giftings, using their talents. They wrote these things down, and then Peter continues on in the text, and he says this, picking it up in the first part of verse 12. I want you to underline this part. It was revealed to them that they were serving not themselves, but you. We're going to come back to this in a moment, but here are the prophets, 800 years, 1,200 years, 1,500 years, 2,000 years before the birth of Jesus. They didn't fully see what this was about. But by the power of the Holy Spirit, they were using their skills and gifts